everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. And welcome to this webinar, Marketing Careers Debunked. Where do I start, and is it for me? Hosted by Crowd. Before we get started, we would like to go over some housekeeping and some ground rules with all of you. Please do keep yourself on mute throughout the event. You will get an opportunity to ask questions in the chat and feel free to pop those in. We're just keeping ourselves on mute to not disturb our fellow crowd panelists and other attendees tuning in. If you have any questions, as I said, throughout the event, please share them in the chat box. You will find that function on the lower half of your screen or in the slide down button on your phones. Leave them in the chat and the speakers will be providing answers at the end of this session. This session is being recorded, so if you want to, keep your cameras on. If you're not comfortable with that, keep them off. And the recording will be made available on the BYP Network YouTube. I will now hand over to our host, Emma from Crowd. And thank you so much, all of you, for joining with us today, and have fun. Emma, off to you.
Thanks, Ramona. So hi everyone, my name's Emma. I'm the Director of Client Services here at Crowd. Thanks all for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Just explain a bit about Crowd before we dive into the lovely panel that we've got a Q&A session with today. We're a full-service digital marketing agency, so we work across the whole range of marketing, and I'll explain a bit about what that means. Our services include Google paid search, so if you're looking for a sofa, you see the adverts that come up at the top of the page. We have paid and organic social, so if you're scrolling Instagram, you see the stuff that you're already following, and that'll be peppered in with the adverts. We have SEO, so looking after websites, content creation, video creation, digital out of home, which are the digital screens you might see when you're out and about, connected TV, the adverts you see whilst you're streaming TV. If it's online, if you can see it and it's an advert, then we can look after it. So it's essentially what we do. So we're a full range of digital marketing. We've been around for about 12 years now with Crowd, and we're fortunate enough that we've got some lovely clients under our belt. So we've got Aston Martin, we look after the Claridge's Hotel, Selfridges, Fraser's Group, to name but a few. So we've got some really big brands under our belts. We've got a whole range of team here today who are going to talk to you about some of the services and the work that they do to give you that understanding of what a career in digital marketing looks like. So moving swiftly on then to the important people in the group, we've got our panel lineup. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick off with our first question to the team, and they'll introduce themselves as they go. So Nikita, I'm going to start with you if that's okay. If you could explain to us a bit about yourself and also how you got started with your career in digital marketing.
Yes, hi everyone. As Emma mentioned, I'm Nikita. I'm a planning partner here at Crowd. I've probably been in the industry now for coming up to 10 years almost, which makes me feel quite old actually when I say that out loud. But yeah, so I've been at multiple different agencies, 3 total. Started in quite a small independent, then went to a big network and back to a small independent, which is great. So how I started in this industry really is it was all by chance. I kind of stumbled into this career actually from a friend of mine who worked at another kind of sales house, which we can go on and explain later on. But yeah, it's a bit of an unconventional start for me. Actually, I studied maths at uni. Yeah, I did maths and ended up in a kind of a creative industry. When I first kind of landed in this industry, I explained, I'm an account exec or an account manager, and my parents had no idea what I did and thought I was an accountant for so long. I only like 5 years later recently found out that they've been telling everyone that I was an accountant, which is completely false. But yeah, like my parents didn't understand it, my friends didn't understand what I did. So yeah, it's really nice to be here to talk to you guys about, how I started my career in this industry, and also how everyone else on this call has, because yeah, it's probably not one that many people have heard of unless you're in it. One thing that's quite interesting is when I first started my career, the first agency that I joined, they were only hiring people from economics, maths and physics background, and that's because of the way that the industry is changing now. That's not to say that you have to have that kind of mindset. It was just, digital first, and things had changed quite drastically. So it was appealing at the time for me as a grad coming into this role. That's me in a nutshell. I can pass over to Miriam.
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, lovely to meet you. I'm Miriam. So I've been in the industry for about 5 years, and I went to university and studied economics and management. And my interest for marketing sparked as I had a few marketing modules, and then I had a placement year where I had to like find it on my own. So it was just a case of like, doing a lot of research on the internet and just seeing what appealed to me. And I landed in a role which was like business to business marketing at Henkel, so Schwarzkopf, the hair care brand. And then through that, I graduated and then still wanted to learn a bit more about marketing, and then had to continue applying for roles, literally, and just landed into a company called Bowden, where I did some online e-commerce marketing. And then through that kind of exposed me to the online world, which I was previously not aware of. And then through that, I learned a bit more about what digital marketing was, even though I didn't do it myself. So during lockdown, I decided to take a few courses in SEO, then also decided to take a step back in my career and landed at Crowd. So through then, I've kind of just like worked around the different industries, and now I'm in the strategy and planning team.
Thanks, Miriam. And Titi, if you'd like to take us through how you got into digital marketing and a bit about yourself as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Titi, and I've been working within digital marketing for about 6 years now. And I initially got interested in it after finishing in university. So I studied business, general business in university, and marketing was one of the modules I really enjoyed and excelled in. And one thing that stuck with me was the ability to look at numbers, but also be creative, which is more the digital marketing side. So within my marketing career, I've worked within like traditional marketing, working for like in-house agencies. So when I say in-house, that's for companies that like we have as clients currently, or within an agency, which we'll explain further later. Yeah, but how I started my marketing career was through internships after university.
Thanks, Titi. And then finally to Chloe, if you'd like to introduce yourself and how you got into digital marketing.
Yeah, so similar to kind of what Nikita was saying before, I sort of landed in marketing as well, and it wasn't the route I initially chose. I actually, I went to school, after I finished my A-levels, I wasn't sure I wanted to go to university because I just didn't know what I wanted to study, and I didn't want to put loads of money behind something I wasn't sure about studying. My parents were like, why don't you do accounting? Do a career in accounting, that's stable. So they just wanted me to go into something that was quite, stable, knew it paid well. I was definitely not a maths person. I was not a numbers person, but I didn't know what else to do. So I enrolled in an accounting course, and I did not enjoy it, unsurprisingly. Not a numbers person, as I said. But I saw the qualification through. I thought I'm going to get it to the end and see what happens. And after I finished that, I ended up just interning at a company, supporting the accounting team. But it was a bit of a crossover of like accounting and sales and marketing. And that's when I first got exposed to marketing. So I was kind of like, oh, that looks a lot more interesting than what I'm doing. I think I want to move in that direction. So it wasn't something that I initially sought out. Didn't really know anything about marketing. And actually, I remember in school thinking, oh, advertising, don't know about that. No, don't think that's for me. So it's interesting that when I kind of saw it in action, it really changed my perspective on it.
Thanks, Chloe. Same as you, actually. I didn't go to university either, and I didn't actually get into marketing until in my early 30s, and I'm now way past that. I won't reveal my age, but it's actually, I had a career change in my early 30s, and then switched over to marketing and actually went back in on a junior role and worked my way through again. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for your introduction. So just a bit of an introduction, actually, to some of the roles that exist within marketing, because we have such a broad spectrum of roles that really cater for most skills, especially with creativity and with numbers, whether you do or don't like them. Nikita, do you want to give us an insight into some of the roles that we have available?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Emma mentioned, the industry is huge. And we're going to try to not have jargon in this section because it can be quite easy for us to get lost in what we already know. But you know, there's so many different types of businesses. So you have agencies, which we are. Essentially, an agency is kind of the intermediary between clients who are brands that you would have all heard of. So like Emma mentioned, Aston Martin's one, and also, you know, the Facebooks, the Googles of the world, where we actually go to advertise. So we're the intermediary that does all the planning and buying for agencies, for brands. You've got clients who are the brands that we mentioned, and they kind of use us as a as that intermediary, as those experts to help them do kind of, you know, best in class advertising. You've got in-house roles where lots of clients now have got their own kind of internal setups, their own kind of internal digital marketing team. So I think, Miriam, you mentioned starting off at Schwarzkopf, exactly that, you know, going in-house directly, working with the brand team and doing kind of agency style work, which is buying and planning media. Then you also have kind of the supplier and platform side. So this is very, very vast, and we're going to very briefly touch on it. But supplier side is, you know, all the different types of media that we can buy. So we can buy connected TV, we can buy search, we can buy display, we can buy social. So when we talk about platform and vendor side, or platform and supplier side, it's really tapping into those types of businesses, those types of networks where we can start to, you know, buy and essentially make sure people are seeing our advertising across all these different platforms. There are also different specialisms within the teams. So we have things like creative, you've got creative agencies, but you've also got creative arms that sit within agencies as well. So we have our own kind of creative team. You've got strategy. Strategy is what I do. So I do strategy and planning. Essentially, that's kind of really taking what clients want and need and really dissecting it, understanding it, and turning that into actionable advertising, media, or KPIs, objectives. And then you've got things like specialism, such as, you know, you can specifically only buy social and really like learn your craft. And that's when people are planning and buying on things like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I should have said Meta there. That's not my that's my bad. And also analytics and data. So obviously I've mentioned I come from a maths background. There's a heavy kind of relationship with what we do to actual measurement as well. You know, it's all well and good looking and seeing a big ad on a billboard or on TV, but we need to show the client that we're spending their money in the right way and the impact it's having. So data is a big part of what we do now, and I think that's only got more and more important, you know, as years have gone by. I think that's in a nutshell kind of a lot of the different specialisms that we have within the industry, but it's changing so much because, you know, new roles probably didn't exist 5 years ago and are now actually emerging. So, you know, you can have some new teams, such as an app specific team. Apps didn't exist a little while ago. Social was also a completely new team, and actually not too long ago, digital was relatively new as well. So actually it's always evolving, it's always changing, and there's always something new to learn in this type of industry.
And just to build on that, so Nikita's kind of touched on all of the different business types and some of the specialisms that exist within those business types. But actually within the businesses themselves, you've also got such a broad array of roles. And I think the great thing about coming into marketing, even if you're not 100% convinced it's where you want to be permanently, I think it's a great place to start, because there's so many transferable skills that you'll learn within marketing that you can take elsewhere. So some of the sort of, we'll come on to talk about some of the skills in a moment, but just some of the roles that exist that are transferable to any industry, I think it's really worth noting. So for example, you've got sales teams that sit within an agency. You've got product teams, developers, analytics. So all of those types of divisions that exist within a business, project management, which is what I do, broadly applicable to any other industry. I could move from marketing to IT, for example, with project management. So it's really versatile. I think that's one of the great things about kind of starting a career in marketing, is that even if you're not sure on whether you want to be brand side or agency side, there's lots of different roles that you can actually try out. and yeah, applicable to the different skills that you might have.
Thanks both. And I'll take one to Titi, just to say that I can see some questions coming through on the chat. That's brilliant. Keep putting them in. And when we get to the end of some of the questions we prepared for you, we'll go through the chat questions. Titi, could you just take us through some of the reasons why you wanted to pursue a career in marketing, and what kind of people would you encourage to also do the same?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said initially, I took marketing module in university, and one of the key things that stuck to me was the ability to be creative, but also I enjoy looking at numbers. So that was one of the things that drew me towards marketing. So the creativity side went, so I work within the paid media section. And what I do is work across the different advertising channels that are available online for consumers to see and use. So what that allows me to do is, for instance, on Meta, so Facebook, in terms of the advertising platform, is to create like different variations of videos and images that attract the different audiences that we're targeting. And then where the numbers come into place is bringing out the results and letting the client know that based on this, we've achieved these. And that's where the numbers come, because they're different like objectives that we need to look at to show that they perform well. And then in terms of what kind of people I would advise, pretty much anyone. So if you ask majority of the people that are within the agency, some of them are engineers, mathematicians like Nikita. And the core thing is, if you show the interest at seeking the different skills that are transferable but needed to be in that role. But in terms of what kind of people, if you enjoy being creative, looking at numbers, and like talking to people, because we have a lot of clients, and just have like a personality where you like to interact with people, yeah, marketing would be a role for you.
Thanks, Titi. Nikita, if you wanted to jump in and build on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons I stayed in the career of marketing, actually, so I joined not really knowing too much about it. As mentioned, I thought I was going to do a grad scheme and end up in a, an EY or a PwC, but I didn't want to sell my soul, is how I told myself what I told myself. So what really fascinated me about digital marketing was it really opened my eyes to a whole new world. And I feel like people now are probably a lot more savvy than they probably were 10 years ago when I first joined. But I didn't know that you could target people on Facebook, and the granularity you could target people on Facebook. And it was just, it blew my mind. And I remember coming back and telling everyone, did you know I could do this, this, and this? And, I got a lot of job envy. A lot of my friends were really envious of my job, because a lot of them were, doing the 9 to 5 in a bank, or the 9 to 5 in a grad scheme. And I found actually I was exhilarated by what we were doing. I really, loved the idea of seeing an actual tangible output of a campaign that I took part in. So I remember going to the cinema and seeing an ad that Cafe and Warehouse did at the time, and I was like, that's my brand. That's I did that. It was really quite nice to see. And I can still do that day to day now with some of the clients that I work on. We've got some really big brands, and it's really lovely to see an output of what we've planned and done. And they only see the very final product, but they don't see the months of planning and work that goes into it before. And I think that was something that I found really quite appealing. I also think it's a really exciting industry. In the 10 years that I've been in the industry, it's changed a lot. There's been mergers of different sales houses. The way that we buy is completely different. I don't want to bore you with some of the technicalities, but things like buying TV has completely changed now, and it's actually a lot more accessible for lots of different clients. And there's just a lot of change that makes it constantly interesting. So I've been in here for 10 years. Every year a client might come to us with a very similar problem, but the way that we can answer the problem is completely different now. It's it's evolved so much. And actually, I think someone made a note about ChatGPT in the questions, and it's one of the industries that we can kind of take on a lot of new tech, take on a lot of new technology, or I'm trying to think of the word, but it's just really exciting to be part of, because it's a really adaptable industry. It grows rapidly. And I think there's always a need for it as well, which is exciting. It's clients love it. We get a lot of exposure to fun things, and I say fun in kind of a air quote way, but yeah, you get to talk to the suppliers, you get to talk to Facebook, you get to go to Google, and it did really kind of appeal to me. I think the other thing as well is just the opportunity to work with big brands. I think I mentioned, it's nice to see an output of what you do day to day, but being able to work with really recognizable brands like Pret, for example, is a client of ours. I mentioned Cafe and Warehouse I used to work on. There's some really big, nice brands that we work on at Crowd. But it's really nice to take a client on a journey and see their transition to something different. So yeah, I didn't ever think I was passionate until I started writing this down. And then I realized I actually am quite passionate about what I do. And it's always just, you're constantly learning, which is always, a nice thing to do. You're never going to be bored in this industry.
Thanks, Nikita. And I think it's a really interesting point that when somebody scrolls past the advert on Instagram or something, and it's just a few seconds for you, that the 6 months of strategy and planning and asset creation that's gone into that to get that one ad out to the right audience. Miriam, over to you, please, about pursuing a career in digital marketing, and why you wanted to get into it.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it was because it's a really dynamic and relevant industry. And as I mentioned, it was something I wasn't really privy to prior to, getting into my first role, which again, I had no insights as to what it would be until I tried it out. Then I moved on and again realized what the world of digital marketing was. And as I wasn't involved in it, I used to do a few Google courses that sparked my interest. And then realized, I'm kind of interested in what SEO is, because it helps businesses organically improve how they are on the search engine. So I started off quite junior at Crowd. And then through there, it just also made me realize, I like to help businesses discover how to work on their problems and how they can improve their relevancy in advertising. So I've been lucky enough to also, have conversations with internal teams. So it just kind of shows that your career is not necessarily linear in marketing. So I think that's another exciting thing about it. So you're always able to move around and stuff. So now I'm lucky enough to work in the same team as Nikita, where I'm exposed to a lot of the overarching business problems that they may have, and how we can use different advertising outlets to help them become more visible or achieve any of their goals that they want. So
thanks, Miriam. And then finally, Chloe, same question to you, please.
Well, being completely honest, I think I said before that I was in a company at the time doing accounting, and I saw what the marketing team were doing and thought it looked a lot more fun. Being honest, it was just because they got to travel a lot. So the first company I worked for was in-house. So brand side, and the marketing team used to do a lot of events internationally. And I was quite young, and I thought, oh, I'd quite like to travel and not have to pay for it. So when a role came up, travel opportunities was something that were quite open to the marketing team, and actually still are today. So even though I'm in a different company, I have actually been able to travel quite a lot through being in marketing, which I think is always good fun when someone else gets to pay for it. So that was the real reason why I initially was drawn to it. But actually then when I started doing the work, I realized actually this is so much more versatile and so much more me. Just the types of things that I got to do, it just felt a lot more relatable. So as Nikita said, seeing things that you've touched or worked on in some capacity in everyday life, seeing brands that you work with, even the less exciting brands. I almost called one out then, and I was like, oh, shouldn't do that. But even the less exciting brands, it's just quite like household names. Even, your family know who they are, your friends know who they are. I think it's quite nice to be able to touch and work on some of the clients that we do get to work with. And just the people that work in marketing, working in an agency, a lot more, I shouldn't say this, but a lot more sociable and a lot more it's quite a fun place to be. I think there's a lot more kind of going on from a you get the serious side, but you also get the fun, rewarding side of it as well.
Thanks, Chloe. Work hard, play hard, hey? That's kind of the general gist in marketing, I think. So Nikita, could you just talk us through what kind of skills you think employers across agencies or supplier sides could be looking for a role in digital marketing?
Yes, absolutely. And I can see a few questions actually coming up about what kind of skills people, you know, we look for. In my time, I've done lots of interviews and I've interviewed lots as well. So hopefully this comes from an area of expertise, but every skill, like every job, sorry, is completely different. You know, every role has a different core set of skills. But what I think is really important is being able to show that you're curious. You're really kind of hungry to learn. I think those are kind of very key. Being inquisitive and like really asking questions, because yeah, coming into this industry, it does change quite quickly. There are things that are going to, you know, that we can learn from outside before even coming in, and there's lots of things that we can kind of, you know, get quite excited about. So I think that's definitely key. I think Chloe touched on this as well, but being personable. Like a lot of my job, for example, as a strategy director, actually I'm not a planning partner, but a strategy planning partner. One thing that I think is really, really important is being able to be, you know, personable, but being able to sell in ideas and build rapport and trust with our clients. Essentially, it might seem like it's really easy to buy and sell in a TV campaign because it's, you know, everyone can see it, it's really big. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of resilience as well. A lot of kind of work in the background, a lot of kind of, you know, us proving the worth of what we do. So I think it's being able to kind of, yeah, build that rapport with clients, build that trust, being able to sell in things as well. We are all selling constantly. That's kind of what we do. So I think in an interview process, you know, being able to sell yourself is great. But, you know, being able to use data as well is going to be key. And you don't have to have an analytic mind to do that, but it's just kind of validating, like point evidence explanation, being able to validate why you're putting something forward, why you're recommending it for a client and why it's the best fit for them. I think it's always really important as well. So there's kind of, yeah, there's two prongs. It's kind of being curious, adaptable, and yeah, really demonstrating that inquisitive mindset, but just being able to kind of really sell and understand businesses through and through, using data to kind of, yeah, validate reasons and rationale for why we put things forward.
Thanks, Nikita. Titi, if you would like to come in on that.
Yeah, just to like chime in on what Nikita said there, proactivity is key. So we're in an industry that are affected by a lot of change. So change in economy, change in trends, and especially technology as well. So just constantly being proactive, being like looking at the news relating to marketing. So there are different like blogs and forums that you can join. And one of the core things that helped me, so I transitioned from a background in finance into marketing, and one of the core things that helped me was doing a lot of like LinkedIn learning, so digital marketing courses, but reaching out to people within my LinkedIn network to just have like a 15-minute coffee to talk about a role that I'm interested in, and seeing like what I can do to be in that role and just how it's transferable. So but the core thing is being proactive, and then like looking at courses online. There are lots of free courses, like digital marketing courses online that you can take. There are lots of courses on YouTube, LinkedIn Learning, the different variations. So also adding that to your skill, but looking at people in certain roles or certain companies that you want to work in, and seeing the roles that are available that might match with what you're interested in, and then reaching out. Eventually someone will respond.
Thanks, TT. And then Chloe, I don't know if you wanted to just have a last point on that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add a point of I think, you know, everyone's kind of covered the most of it. The one thing I would say as well is just being able to demonstrate that, like I was going to say strong communication, but that's definitely something that I think you develop over time. It doesn't come straight away, but if there's probably ways and things that you can do to start honing those skills now. So, you know, talking to your family and friends about like what it is that you want to do, why you want to do it. Those are the types of things that you typically have to do in an interview. But I think other than just, you know, verbal and written communication, I think showing ways in which you've been able to problem solve is quite a strong one. At least it is for me, because I think in a lot of our jobs, we come across challenges and we come across things that, you know, it's not clear cut. So being able to kind of think about how you would approach a problem, and, you know, we've touched a lot today on how in this industry it's constantly changing, and, you know, you have to always innovate and to keep ahead. So I think being somebody who likes learning new things is really, really important. You have to, you know, you can't just kind of be like, okay, I've studied and that's it now, I know my thing. It's like being able to continually learn, being curious and asking questions to like actually, you know, try and learn more as you go, I think is really key.
Thank you. And we all started somewhere. We all started with zero experience ourselves. Titi, you talked earlier on about all the free courses and the material that's available out there for people, especially the ones that were like us a few years ago who've zero experience. Are there anything else that you think that people could be looking at to start help building up their skill set and portfolio?
Yeah, I think one good thing you can do is I saw a question there about someone working in influencer marketing at the moment. So looking at ways that you can look at the numbers based on like the analytics in your role, because that's one of the things that we look at. So starting like a small project, maybe looking at ways to help promote whatever influencer you're working with, or if you know someone that has a small business, helping them like advertise their business online, and doing that by doing courses. So taking on like small projects, or there are lots of volunteer pages on LinkedIn that look for people like entry level or interns to help them with their paid social or paid media activity. And most times they train you and then tell you what to do. So that's also another avenue to take. And like lots of other avenues like networking and joining like community groups, and in that reaching out to people to like shadow or like train you up. And a core one is like new apprenticeship programs that are currently on. So there are different government funded apprenticeship programs that you could sign up to, and they are targeting underrepresented groups. So I took advantage of that when I decided to move into digital marketing, and it worked for me because I was able to like move the pace within my career quicker based on taking that opportunity. So yeah.
Brilliant. That's amazing. That's something that you leaned into as well. It's fantastic. And Chloe, did you want to elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, so one of the ways that I think, look, a couple of us said, I think myself, and I think it was maybe Miriam. I'm sorry if I can't remember who else said it now, but someone else said earlier today that, you know, we both started like through entry level roles. You know, I know I didn't go to university, and I got into the industry through, you know, just having some relevant professional work experience. So that was just from doing my accounting course. Okay, then I got in through an entry level accounting role, but you don't have to go, you know, it's very, very versatile. So looking for entry level opportunities at marketing agencies, at in-house brands, leveraging the transferable skills that you do have if you are looking for a career switch. If you know, maybe you're brand new, but maybe you're not, maybe you've actually got some relevant professional work experience. So really leveraging the transferable skills that role has given you and seeing how you can apply those to marketing. A lot of, you know, startups are looking for entry-level talent. So just, you know, I think it's a blend of, you know, what Titi was just saying about actually diving in yourself and getting some practical, you know, you can do some things yourself to get that practical work experience, but actually you might already have some that you don't realize how transferable it actually is. At Crowd, we're really excited to be offering, we're going to be launching a brand new internship scheme. It's going to go live next month. and the applications are going to go live next month, but we're actually taking people in from August. So that's open to people from underrepresented backgrounds who actually have zero experience in marketing. It's kind of a trainee scheme, really. So we're going to, be training people up from scratch, giving people that 3-month opportunity to kind of join Crowd, get some relevant training, get some relevant work experience, build your portfolio, and hopefully either take on a role at Crowd in future, or actually, go on into the wider industry. So I think looking for opportunities like that is a really great way to get started, even if you don't have any experience.
Thanks, Chloe. I can't wait, that internship. It's going to be brilliant. Can't wait for that. Great initiative. And Nikita, just a final point to you about how do you recommend people getting into the industry with zero experience?
Yeah, so I think really it's like reading, taking an active interest, and talk to as many people as possible. And that could be going to events, or it could just be reaching out to people that you might know in circles, or reaching out to people on LinkedIn even. I think what's quite interesting about our industry, and maybe we haven't really touched on it too much, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell to people. That's ultimately what we're all trying to do. So having a really nice, deep understanding of motivations and human and people, I think, is really important as well. Like, really start understanding or questioning. You don't have to come in with all the knowledge, but actually start questioning, why do people buy certain products? Why are certain brands bigger than others? Those are really interesting questions, and especially in my role and Miriam's role in strategy and planning, those are the kinds of things that we really, really look out for. Taking an active interest in people's motivations and behavior is just, it goes so far in this industry. There are lots of kind of behavioral scientists that you can kind of look out for. Rory Sutherland is one of my favorites. It's like he's hilarious, but he's also got a very kind of strong opinions. But he grounds everything in kind of real life application, in real life everyday examples that can be really easily like understood and translated. So I think those are kind of really interesting things, and understanding the human psychology of why we do things is really important. But also I think just to kind of end on like a bit of a happier note, but you can take a non-traditional path, and that's absolutely fine. I think every single person on this call has taken a very different path into this industry. I don't think any of us, well, some of us stumbled into it, some of us went in with an intention, and some of us, did a career switch like Emma did. So there's lots of opportunities how you can get in. So I think it's just being a bit brave. Your options are really broad, and this industry is really, really broad as well. So you'll always find something that suits you. So hopefully, yeah, you've seen that from the panel today, that there's quite a vast array of ways of coming into the industry, and also jobs that you can do within.
Thanks, Nikita. Oh, sorry, Chloe, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in and actually turn it around to the host, because I do think she also has some great insight to share on her career switch that Nikita just mentioned. Because I think I know the host doesn't usually speak, but I do think that you've actually got some very relevant experience. So I just wanted to turn it around to you and ask the same question.
So I spent the first 10 years of my career as a sign language interpreter, so the little person that you see in the corner of the TV. So I can assure you that we are full human size. And after about 10 years of doing that, I went to uni late, and I paid for myself to go to uni to do a master's in that particular profession. And then I was interpreting for the CFO of The Economist at the time, and they were looking at a digital subscription business. And very much like Nikita, I was fascinated by how granular we could target people, very Big Brother-esque. And I just thought it was really quite intriguing. So I started to kind of upskill myself on LinkedIn, and a friend of mine was launching a website design business. So I just said, I'll run your Google ads for you. So I learned how to do Google advertising on my own by just phoning the Google free phone number and them taking me through the account and learning how that worked. And then I built it up, and then I knew somebody that worked at another agency. So they put me in touch with someone there, and I said, this is what I've been doing in the background. And then that's how I was able to make a career switch. I think my husband, he threatened to divorce me about 6 times because I was going from a very professional career into quite a junior role and making this career switch. And I kept saying to him, no, it's part of the bigger picture, and this is what I really want to do. And I was fascinated by it. And I don't regret it at all. I think it was definitely the best decision to make that switch over. So it's never too late. And I think it's like everybody's talked about today, it's actually the reason why everyone's on this webinar is because they're interested in progressing your career and benefiting yourself. And I think if you've already got that drive within you to do that, then you'll always find the way and the opportunities around you to keep succeeding. So I think that's always testament when people do show up on these webinars that you are keen to learn. So we're all learners at heart. Thanks so much. Thanks for throwing me right on the spotlight there, Chloe. So that's our panel questions that we've gone through today, and there's been a few questions that have been put into the chat. So if we, I'm going to start from the top one here from Chantal. So quick question, are the opportunities based in London, or do we have anything in Leeds or West Yorkshire? Does anyone want to jump in and expand about Crowd and where we're based?
I'm happy to do that. So we have an office here in London, and we also have an office in Shrewsbury, which is a lovely little town outside, sort of near-ish Birmingham, near Wolverhampton sort of direction. So it's kind of on the border of Wales and between Wales and Wolverhampton. So those are our two offices in the UK. We've also got an office in Dubai, and we've got an office in New York. Those are the main locations that Crowd recruits from. We don't tend to have too many remote people. So if you're in one of those locations, then yeah, we'd encourage you to apply. But that's kind of where we're based. But don't be limited by, selfishly, I want you to apply to Crowd, but don't be limited by just us. Obviously, there are other agencies and in-house roles available in your areas as well.
Next question here. We always knew ChatGPT AI was going to crop up. So thank you, Ramona. How has the advent of ChatGPT affected marketing and the creation of copy that authentically engages consumers? So excellent question. Who would like to come in on that? Nikita, was that? I think that's probably definitely up your street.
Yeah, I'm happy to take this because I think so. A lot of people were quite scared about ChatGPT when it first launched, because, you know, it can essentially take people's jobs. I think that's what everyone thought originally. But the way that we talk about it here at Crowd, and this is very unique to us, it doesn't necessarily mean it's every agency that does this, but we have two ways of thinking about the tool. So it's of ChatGPT, whether it's a tool or whether it's a muse. So tool is, you know, actually functionally doing things quicker and faster for us. So it could be dissecting 20-page document into bullet points for us to condense down and understand. It could be writing copy and headlines. For example, I think you just mentioned, how do we copy and translation? We would never send that directly to the client. Everything is always vetted by a human first. But the second one is a muse. So, you know, using it as a kind of source of discovery, a source of exploration, using it to kind of ask bigger questions and getting ideas back is a really nice way of using it as well. And I think you can be really creative with how we use AI. And we shouldn't be scared of it. We should definitely lean into it. Clients are expecting us to lean into it. As we mentioned, you know, kind of digital first agency, we need to be on the front foot. We need to be exploring these new opportunities because they might be it might be kind of our bread and butter later on down the line. So we want to kind of, you know, as much as we can, incorporate it into our day-to-day jobs and make sure we're not kind of resisting it, but flowing with it because it is such a big topic at the moment. We'd be mad to not use it. So definitely embracing everything to do with ChatGPT at the moment, and Gemini and Bard or whatever else there is out there at the moment.
Thanks, Nikita. Then another question here from Diraj. We've got any guidance on how to stand out and showcase transferable skills for a paid media role for someone who has close to 3 years in influencer marketing? Anyone would like to come in and answer this one?
I can comment on
you,
that. Yeah, I can comment on that based on, so I'm giving you examples based on what I've done to get me to where I am in paid media right now. And the core thing was being able to investigate problems. So Chloe mentioned problem solving. So the core thing we do is trying to find a solution to a client's problem through the different objectives they bring to us and content they bring to us in this example. So having like a investigative like mindset, and definitely enjoying to look at numbers, because actually a lot of the things we do is writing reports and going back to the client based on the performance. We still do the creative stuff, but the report has more strength because it tells you the outcome of the creative side of things. So if you have that drive, so I gave you the examples of starting a project or looking via LinkedIn for voluntary work. And this voluntary work is, I did one like a few years ago. It's just part-time, so you can do it like 2 days a week for like 2 hours of your time, where you could help like a charity, and that can help you develop your skills in that. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Titi. And then to Chantel's question here. So finding your niche, what if you literally enjoy multiple areas in marketing, for example, creativity and social media, website, but also diving into data and SEO? What specific role would you recommend for this? Who would like to come in on this one? I've got something. I think it's got to be a client services role, really, if you want to be that central function.
Emma's actually going to bring it to you and say, doesn't your role involve all that? Because you have to look at all those things. So yeah.
I think yeah, so I would recommend, if you like working across all different channels, then I think the central functions such as strategy and planning, client services and project management, I think all three of those cater for that. So in the client services team, we are essentially the voice of the client within the agency. So we're the main day-to-day contact with the client. We speak to them, ensure that they're happy and ensure that we are delivering against their wishes across the agency. So hence we were called the client services team. So we get to work with the SEO team, the PPC team, the paid social team. So we actually get to understand each of what all of them do. We have a thin knowledge across each service function, but we definitely need the technical experts in each function to deliver the work for us. So I would suggest that something along those lines, if you're able to be confidently hold a meeting with a client, and again, you get, that just comes with experience as well, because sometimes they can be slightly terrifying, but on the whole, very nice people. I don't know if anyone else wanted to come in on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Obviously, I'm from project management, so that is exactly what I was going to say as well. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes people end up in, we call these roles kind of generalist roles because we kind of do a little bit of everything. Sometimes people end up in generalist roles having worked directly in a specialism. So they'll start their career in one of those specialisms. So I think you mentioned influencer marketing. That's a great foundation to build on, because it means that you've got something that you actually do have really deep expertise on, and can lean on them when you move into that generalist direction. A lot of people who are either in my team or in, Emma's team, have typically started, Nikita as well, started in a specialism and then branched out and gone broader. But I do want to say that I might be the only person I know that didn't do that. But it is possible to not start in a specialism and to always be a generalist as well. I've always done a little bit, I've always played a generalist role. And I used to think it was a weakness, but I've now learned that actually, no, it's okay, it's fine. You don't have deep expertise on anything, but actually that's fine. Being a generalist is also a skill. So yeah, having interest across all of those different areas is really, really valuable. And you can kind of start in either direction. So if you feel like, actually, I'm just somebody who really enjoys people, who really enjoys organizing and having that breadth, start there if you already know that's what you want. But a lot of the time you can start the other way around as well. That was all I wanted to add.
I think, Chloe, you're undercooking your skill set there, because I know that you've got some strong skills, particularly in SEO. So yeah, I think you're definitely underselling yourself. Yeti's question. So the bread and butter of a creative strategist role, and what key skills and temperaments are needed to excel as a creative strategist and planner? Who would like to come in on that one?
I think I can jump in here, because I think, like I said, my role is strategy and planning. It's not creative, but it's very similar. So we have, most strategists will always start with insights. So everything that we do is embedded in like discovery work, exploration work, like really understanding the competitors, really understanding the audiences and consumers, really understanding, the cultural influences as well. So being able to kind of show that you are, it's not necessarily data or insights, but it's, again, really understanding like a diverse range of data sets that we can pull on, because everything needs to be embedded in data, everything needs to be like proven and like shown that it works. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things, is being able to kind of source information to back up what you're trying to sell in. From a temperament perspective, I would probably say having thick skin. You know, we go in with ideas that sound great to us because we've worked on them for months and months and months. But actually, you know, it's not our decision. We're selling it to a brand or to a client. It's ultimately their decision what they want to go with. So, you know, being able to kind of be a bit more resilient. It's not that you that they're saying no to, it's essentially just an idea. So being able to kind of bounce back quite quickly, I think, is also going to be a really good skill to have, especially in this kind of industry. And I guess, again, another thing with like creative strategy and planning would be working closely with media. You don't necessarily need to know everything about media, but having a little bit of an understanding of the different types of media that we can buy, the different types of creative then is that then is required. You know, we've got some amazing stats actually on like the influence of creative on media. It is basically more the creative that we put out there than the actual media that we're buying has more of an impact on performance. And when I say performance, that doesn't necessarily mean people buying. It could also be changing perception. It could be, you know, driving more awareness. It could be ad recall, for example. And those are all metrics that we can look at, you know, not just how many people have bought X product after seeing an ad. So I definitely think there's a role to understand, you know, media and advertising, not just creative, because a creative is only ever going to be as good as where people see it, and vice versa. So that's also something I would recommend, just having a bit of an understanding of that.
Thanks, Nikita. And Fifi, just your question on roles based in Dublin. So just to Chloe's point earlier, so we are London and Shrewsbury in the UK only, and then Middle East and New York. So not in Ireland at present. But as we said, you know, we'd love for you to apply to work at Crowd, but I would definitely don't constrict yourself to that and see what might be available in the in your local area if you can't make it over to sunny London today for once. And then we've got Lonray here. Thank you for the great insights. What would you advise someone that has over 10 years experimenting in marketing, but outside of the UK? So the struggle here that I understand is recruiters feel that you don't have enough UK experience for senior roles and therefore trying to put you into more junior and entry level roles. Anybody like to come in on that one?
I can come in on that, and it's similar to the previous question asked. Just look at how you can look for how to help like charities or join a community where you can get like mentorship, and they could maybe see how they can help you improve your CV for the kind of roles you're looking for. But the core thing is, if you want UK experience, working with a charity within the UK would help you do that. And there are quite a lot of small businesses that need that help as well. So there are platforms, if you just Google it, there are platforms that like have you work for small businesses. So if you take on a project like that, that can help you in terms of that, and you can quickly build your profile in that term.
Just to add to that, actually, I'd probably say we've got lots of global clients actually, so we work across a lot of different markets. So I wouldn't say necessarily that having not UK experience is a hindrance. Actually, it can be really beneficial, especially to global agencies or global brands. So maybe that's also your USP. You're coming in with fresh set of eyes that potentially people in that organization don't have. So I definitely lean on the fact that you've got 10 years experience outside of the UK as a benefit to the interview process and to the jobs that you're applying for. Also, there are so many synergies that you can kind of build on from just working in marketing broadly, that it'd be quite nice to say, you know, even though it's not been in the UK, these are the synergies that I see with the UK and X market that I have worked in. What are the different cultural nuances, or what are the cultural similarities? And if you can kind of start understanding that, I think it's quite a nice way of showing that you understand the UK market just as much as you understand the market that you've been working in. So that probably is, you know, use it as a benefit, I'd say. But yeah, I think maybe trying to draw similarities and nuances would be really helpful as well.
Thanks, Nikita. So we've only got a few minutes left, and I've just had a scroll through some of the questions that the chat that have gone into the chat for us to try and answer as many as possible. And just what I can paraphrase from the last few questions that have come together, it seems to be a lot of questions are asking about how people can transition into marketing, particularly the support for entry or junior level roles, but also into internships and grad programs. So appreciate that the job industry at the moment, it's quite saturated with people applying for roles. So it's a very tough industry to get into. So maybe we could finish on that question with everyone giving us the best advice that we can give on how we can encourage people to get into those entry level roles.
I can jump
Happy
in
to
here.
start. Oh, sorry, Miriam.
No,
You
all
go
good.
for it.
I'd say maybe start off by like kind of looking at, you know, brands and stuff that you're interested in to kind of help you gauge a bit more of like where you could be looking for like marketing specific roles. And then maybe consider like, you know, as the guys mentioned earlier about in-house. So if you want to work for one particular company versus agencies. And again, by looking at the companies or industries that you're particularly interested in, you can go into their sites and, you know, have a look at, you know, what they've got going on in terms of roles available. And it's just about really going like and doing a deep dive on the internet as a starter. Also, as the guys mentioned, going on LinkedIn, you know, seeing what those companies that you've kind of narrowed down also have available on their site. Although it might not be the specific marketing role you're interested in, kind of giving it a go, seeing how you get on as a starting point, I'd recommend.
Thanks, Maria.
I just wanted to add that I think it does take a little bit of resilience, especially as Emma said, in this job market, which is probably not what you want to hear, but it is unfortunately the truth. Like I remember when I was trying to get work experience in school, made a list of, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different companies. I remember writing it out on paper of all the companies that I was going to follow, you know, just Google like UK marketing agency, for example, or like Google, you know, generic terms, for example, that you can then make a list of, follow on LinkedIn. And sometimes it does mean checking back regularly. Appreciate that there's not always roles available, which it is a little bit frustrating. We are trying to, you know, do more to have more entry level roles. But I think, yeah, a little bit of resilience and a little bit of like real deep diving into research of like, make a list of companies that you would want to work for, follow them, check back regularly. And yeah, I think that's something that worked for me.
Thanks, Chloe. Just checking if anyone else had any final words of advice before we close off the session. No, okay. Well, thanks everyone for dialing in and joining us today. I hope we've given you a flavour of what marketing was like and what the career in marketing could look like as well. And I can see that we've shared the link in the chat for people to apply and send their CVs through. So we'd love to see as many of those as possible. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Bye, thank you.